You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Welcome to part one of our special three-part series from the heart of Las Vegas at Asembia 2025, the premier access to pharmacy conference bringing together innovators, decision makers, and visionaries from across the healthcare landscape. Over the next few episodes, we're taking you inside the action with exclusive interviews from exhibitors and attendees who are shaping the future of patient access, pharmacy benefit design, and healthcare delivery. In today's episode, we'll kick things off on the show floor exploring what's new, what's next, and what's making the biggest impact. You'll hear firsthand from exhibitors debuting new solutions and attendees sharing their perspective on where the industry is heading. Whether you made it to Las Vegas or this is your first look into Asembia 2025, we're bringing you key moments from the conference. Part 1 of the Access to Pharmacy 2025 conference post-show is sponsored by DrFirst.
DrFirst here at Asembia 2025. They say Access to Pharmacy 25. Colin, it is so good to see you.
It's always good to see you. Thanks for having me.
This is becoming kind of a tradition of ours. Your insights here are important to us because technology is moving at a lightning fast pace. So I kind of want to tag in and check up with DrFirst and really find out what's going on and more specifically, what's happening in the specialty pharmacy space.
Yeah, it's a busy space. 3 out of every 4 drugs in development right now are deemed specialty medication. And so for DrFirst, a company that specializes in end-to-end medication management, we would be remiss if we weren't trying to ease the friction in the specialty medication process. And I mean the friction for all those involved. So not just for the patient, but also for the providers. And I think that really starts with transparency. I think it is very difficult scene to navigate right now. And the more that we can do to lift and peel back the layers on behalf of our providers and then on behalf of our patients subsequently is time well spent. And so you're going to see DrFirst really doubling down in the specialty space, particularly around, of course, the pain of prior authorization. And one of the things that we're really focused on is specialty medications that are not only falling under your prescription benefit, but also those high-dollar specialty meds that are part of your medical benefit. So think of infusions and things that need to be given in clinical settings as opposed to getting picked up at the drugstore.
When I think of the roadblocks in the realm of specialty pharmacy, there are a lot. We're talking about technology platforms and prior authorizations and workflow and product accessibility. So DrFirst is really becoming this streamlined mechanism technology provider. What other tools are the DrFirst clients using in the specialty space to really help things keep going?
Yeah, right now, some of the things that we're really focused in on are actually quite simple, and sometimes simple is the best, but guiding the provider to do the right thing at the right moment. And some of the examples, these sound so simple, but they're actually quite complex behind the scenes. But if you come to see me and you need a specialty medication, and I'm like, sure, let's go ahead and write for that. And your default pharmacy is, XYZ right down the street. Yeah. Chances are specialty medication might not be able to be filled there. Limited distribution, things like that. Well, our platform can actually tell the doctor that in real time. You have this set up to go to XYZ, but actually there's only 3 pharmacies in America that can fill this, and here's where they are. And click here to change the default pharmacy for that one drug without changing the default pharmacy for all. Similar, a lot of times you can avoid a prior authorization simply by attaching an ICD-10 code. Mm-hmm. People don't know that. Doctors aren't going to do that unless they know there's value there. And so we have the ability with our platform to know when that's needed, when that's not, when it's going to influence. And again, all of these forms of decision support, these gentle nudges, are non-obstructive. They are little slide outs to the side. They're little changes in color or font just to let the doctor or the prescriber know there's action that could be taken here. But just like any good decision support is like the painted lines on a highway. You know, the doctor, the prescriber uses those lines to know where they're going. But if they need to, cross those lines to go somewhere else or do something different, they can. So they're not meant to be hard and fast guardrails. They are suggestions. And that's, to me, I've spent 2 decades on decision support, and that's the key to good decision support is actionability and flexibility.
You've been in the space long enough, not to make you sound old, Colin, but you've been around to see things shifting and changing, especially in the more difficult handling of specialty meds. DrFirst has been keeping up with those kinds of changes for years. Where are we going with AI and decision support and clinical support? Where do you see AI kind of enhancing the realm of specialty pharmacy?
Yeah, I've never seen anything move this quickly. 2+ decades in informatics. And a couple of the talks today, of course, were centered around AI. Really, really good speakers here. And, DrFirst is first of all, as a company, we are embracing an AI-first culture. So we want to use AI to augment all of the things that we do when it's responsible to do so. In our day-to-day work, summarizations, I think we're all getting used to the meeting bots that help you figure out to-dos and action items. But on the platform side, on the patient-facing, provider-facing side, we are all in on AI for automating as much of this as we can on behalf of the prescriber. So particularly prior authorization. We've talked about this before, but about a year ago we acquired a platform called MindShift, which helps us with that total benefits management, the medical and the pharmaceutical benefit. And they had been already leveraging AI for automation, and it's only going to improve. One of the things that you're going to see here this week at Assembia is this notion of agentic AI or bots, and stringing together bots that are specific for a very specific use case, and stringing them together so that you can sort of follow the thread of this complex tapestry around specialty medications. And so this is really exciting, for the industry, but also for DrFirst wanting to be a leader in this end-to-end medication management space.
All right, so we're at Assembia. We're here concentrating on the business of specialty pharmacy. There's lots of specialty pharmacists that are probably listening to the post show. What do you want to say to them in helping them to understand better of how DrFirst is a partner in specialty pharmacy? Yeah,
we are partnered with pretty much every node in the medication journey already. So we have real estate that faces the provider, the ability to influence, help them do the right thing. We have connections with pharmacies themselves. We're actually working on novel connections to help improve the entire prescription process. We, of course, have partnerships with pharmaceutical companies, life sciences, so that we can help get the right kind of education, not only in front of the provider, but also in front of the patient. And then we connect directly to the patient through our platform to help them with adherence, education, savings opportunities, because we really want to overcome those barriers. I think people have heard me say this many times, but my mission and the mission for DrFirst is to get patients on and keep them on appropriate therapy. And my submission, although it's probably 1A, is to make that experience as joyful as possible. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's no reason this can't actually be a positive experience for all those involved. It's time to peel back the layers and really get transparency in front of all of this.
I also want to shift gears and talk for just a second for our listeners out there who may not know. Talk to us about Timely and how that is now intricate and how special that is as an extension of the DrFirst portfolio.
Yeah, that's this notion of patient engagement in almost real time. From when a prescription is sent or a pharmacy receives it. It's the ability to send a personalized SMS message to that patient that delivers an app-like experience. So we don't make them go to a separate app store or a separate username and login. They verify with their date of birth, and then boom, you've got this app-like experience, which is very clean, and it offers what I consider the three biggest barriers to patient adherence. We're going to conquer those. Patient education, I'm going to help tell you why this med is important or what you can expect. Two is probably the most important, which is cost savings opportunities. Once that copay gets up in that, $75 to $100 range, the compliance adherence really drops off. And then the third one is just simple reminders, hey, your prescription was just sent to XYZ, and this is the location for it, and here's the phone number that you can click on if you want to know more. And then we can reinforce these behaviors. If a prescription hasn't been picked up 5 days later, we can detect that, send another message. So it's simple things, simple interfaces, and really doing it at the moment of inception, or this notion of that care event just occurred. Let's reinforce what the care plan was, what the medications were, right then and there, so that we can really get this behavior ingrained into our patients.
I love it. I love it. What do you want to say to the specialty pharmacists listening right now who want to move forward, want to know more? What do you say to them in taking steps to evaluate how DrFirst and the systems that you have, the programs that you have, could fit into their workflow and their pharmacy?
Yeah, first and foremost, reach out. Reach out while we're here. We have a large team presence here. If not, find me on LinkedIn or even X, formerly Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days. And DrFirst is in a unique position to help. I will say that to the specialty pharmacies, pharmaceutical companies out there. This notion of end-to-end management and touching all of the various nodes is a very unique position for us, with the ability to influence behaviors on all fronts.
Colin Banas with DrFirst here at Asembia 2025. Also a sponsor of the Pharmacy Podcast Network's press coverage. We are so excited to work with you, Colin. Thank you so much for this time.
Oh, I love it, Todd. Thanks for having me.
This episode of the Pharmacy Podcast Network is brought to you by DrFirst, where smarter workflows power better patient outcomes. For pharmacies, that means fewer headaches, like prescriptions that can't be filled because they need a prior authorization. They're missing clinical context. The NDC doesn't match the description. Or, surprise, it's a limited distribution drug.
You know the headaches that happen next. Calls, emails, faxes, the never-ending back and forth. It wastes time, delays care, and frustrates everyone. Your staff, physicians, and patients. They all deserve better.
Better is DrFirst. We've flipped the script with a modern approach built for real-time collaboration and a smooth path from prescription to adherence. Powered by the nation's largest medication management network, DrFirst clears prescription roadblocks before they reach your pharmacy. So you get clean, actionable prescriptions ready to fill. No delays, no back and forth. Just smoother workflows. More time for pharmacists to practice at the top of their license. And your patients start therapy faster.
Let's end your headaches and clear the path to care together.
See how at drfirst.com/pharmacy.
Drew, we are at Access 2025 AXS. I guess that's Access, isn't it?
Sure.
They say Access.
Yeah.
Access to Pharmacy 2025 Asembia. I say Asembia. Actually,
Asembia.
I started coming here when it was Armada Health. That shows you how old I am.
Well, in classic healthcare fashion, we needed more acronyms, so there you go.
It's so good that you're here. We appreciate DrFirst's support of this event. Drew, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself before we get into today's interview.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, my name is Drew. I've been with DrFirst for 15 years. I spent about a decade of that time integrating our e-prescribing and medication management solutions into EHRs. So focused a lot on getting to know provider workflow, getting to know the ins and outs of software company, business development, and towards the latter end of that, started focusing very heavily on our patient applications. And now really am at a corporate level looking at specialty and trying to figure out how to combine those assets and how to solve some problems that are just right in front of us.
Well, there's a lot of problems. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, the world of specialty pharmacy is so complex. So when we have organizations like DrFirst who give us tools to keep things on track, shout out to Colin Banas, who was on our show talking about, he was saying the painted lines on the highway when there's a fog out there and you can't see anything, but you can see those painted bright yellow lines. That means you can stay on the road. And DrFirst is doing that for the patient, physician, and pharmacist combination with Timely and some of the things that you guys have developed. But what I want to kind of dig into with you is that friction for patients in specialty pharmacies. That's the ecosystem that they're living in. First of all, they just got told that they have some kind of disease that they have to deal with for the rest of their life. Now they have to deal with specialty pharmacy and all the intricacies. DrFirst steps in and gives us that double yellow line to keep us on track. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting, right? Because ultimately these patients that have, to your point, have just been prescribed a specialty therapy need it the most, and for some reason, and we can get into those reasons, they face the most challenges to access those prescriptions. And so when DrFirst looks at it, we kind of First step was to lay all the cards on the table, right? We have provider workflow that we can improve. Okay, we can check that box. Ultimately, the patient needs to end up knowing what's happening, knowing what the next best action is, knowing if they need to do anything to try and address an issue, and then making sure that all of this fits into existing specialty pharmacy workflows, so that none of those three parties really have to change the way they do things. It's more of just the systems working as they should, and so that's really our mission: is how do we keep them doing what they're doing today, but have the unique challenges of specialty medications just work, and that'll keep us busy for a while, I'm sure.
When I think of what you just said when you opened up and you're talking about the APIs that were developed back in the day to the EHR systems, and then all of a sudden you have to spit back information to the pharmacy management system, and you have to communicate with the manufacturer with REMS reporting data and all this stuff. From a patient's perspective, they don't see that behind the scenes. They don't understand. What they want to know is, when am I getting my medication? How does this medication affect me? How do I keep going, staying adherent? I think of Timely as a platform that helps keep things feeling natural for the patient. Because if I start getting text from a system, I'm already used to texting. Mobile phones is just a part of our lives. And now all of a sudden it's being integrated naturally into my life, where now I'm getting information, valuable information of where is my prescription, where is my meds, when is my next dose due or my refill due. Right. Talk to me a little bit about that and how appropriate it is for the pharmacy to be chosen, and then obviously how specialty kind of complex. It makes it a little bit more complex.
Yeah, I think that the hard part here was getting the Timely platform widely adopted, so that we're doing about 6 million patient messages a week. Once you've got that in place, it's more of an enhancement of the existing functionality that patients are used to receiving. They're used to getting the text from their doctor. They can go in and they can see, copay information, cost information. For specialty medications, that content is just a little bit different, right? So it's really, again, about keeping it within what patients are used to doing now, but just being smart enough to know that this is a specialty med, it's going to this pharmacy, and there are certain requirements, or there's a certain additional set of information that would benefit the patient at that time. So again, if we have the intelligence to know what the doctor wrote, why the patient's been prescribed that medication, where it's going, and what the requirements for that specific medication in pharmacy are, we have all the tools within our bag, so to speak, to be able to address it. And then it's just about making it easy for the patient. And how much of it can we do so that we're just giving updates and nudges to the patient, as opposed to saying, hey, your PA is stuck, you need to go call a bunch of people. It's really about doing that on behalf of the patient if we can.
When I think of on behalf of the patient, I immediately think of our quarterback of the entire treatment program, which is our physicians.
Right.
And now the physician looks to the EHR to say, is this patient, this is 5 days after I prescribe this medication, have they started the medication? Number two scenario is, hey, it's been 3 months. Where's this patient at with their therapy? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, we jettison 9 months ahead. Hey, are they adherent to these medications? Jettison 12 months ahead. Hey, so listen, timely with the texting and the data, you're keeping track of all of that, 100% of that. That's so valuable if I'm that physician.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to it, right? It's one, try and get the initial prescription written. Make it in a way that it can be filled pretty much immediately, to address your first point. We don't want it to be 21 days until a patient gets a specialty medication that they need. So once you solve some of those upstream problems, you also smooth out the entire downstream process. So once they're on therapy, exactly what you said, we know when their refills are due. We know that for certain therapies, there's a big drop-off at 30 days or 45 days, or maybe not a drop-off, but it's really valuable to let them know that there's a certain side effect they might experience, and just keep them up to speed. So once the therapy's written correctly, we help the doctor, then it really is about, okay, what are the right touch points? And through Timely, we have the mechanism to make those touch points. So when we're working with the teams, our customers, we can get very specific and develop a campaign that it's not, one size fits all for every patient for every drug, but we want to make it personalized to the patient, but then also specific to the therapy that was prescribed.
So you've been in this industry, in this realm, this technology and healthcare long enough to see where we were. I remember when I started in pharmacy technology in 2004, my goodness, SQL Server was a big deal. I mean, back that day, there were 0 SQL systems in long-term care pharmacy. I was representing one of the very first systems that was using. So now all of a sudden I jettison ahead and I'm sitting in 2025, Access 2025 here at Asembia, Las Vegas. It's amazing. And now I start thinking of what's on the edge. And I start thinking of how is artificial intelligence going to impact my patient's care? How can we use AI to leverage the patient's environment and their experience? And guess what? Colin's already given us in the other interview some of the reference, but I want to hear it from you, Drew, because you're that techie nerdy guy that can actually give us some additional thought around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has applications kind of in all the different checkpoints in the process. I think the question is, what is the most valuable place where you can really let AI shine, as opposed to make inference for a provider or something like that? And so for us, a lot of the opportunity is around consuming a lot more information than what's in an EHR or what we see from a patient, and helping with that personalization. So do we know if this kind of patient prefers phone calls, and they pick up after the second one, or they need this kind of text message to be able to get engaged? Like, those are the things that we're starting to get more sophisticated in. There's also automating different parts of the specialty process. Mm-hmm. So there's robotic process automation is now being used on with different payer portals and things for medically benefit covered drugs. And on the provider side, they're sitting on top of this huge repository of clinical information, but in a big way, it is just that. It is a repository of clinical information, right? And it's not always very usable. So when I think about AI, it's really about how do we use it where it's not going to be maybe flashy and sexy and doing cool things on the screen. It's behind the scenes being a power horse and helping providers and patients and streamlining a lot of the workflows and the challenges that we talked about a second ago.
Drew, what you're doing, though, is you're bending it back to the patient and keeping the patient engaged.
Yep.
That's what Timely's entire mission has been about, is engaging that patient. So talk to us in the specialty pharmacy pharmacists that are listening right now, talk to us about dialing into that patient's experience.
Yeah, for the patient in specialty therapies, it's a different set of needs, and so you need to be able to support a lot of patients. What we find is there are all kinds of support resources for them around specialty medications, but they don't know that they exist. And so a big piece of it for us is the output of the prescribing system should be an engaged patient. It should be a script that's ready to be filled, and it should be going to the right place. And once you have an engaged patient, there are different tactics and different support that patient needs. It could be they need to enroll in that pharmacy. They maybe need to confirm their address if they are getting shipped a medication, or perhaps there's financial savings and perhaps there's patient support enrollment. So it's really about, based on the brand, based on the payer, based on the specialty pharmacy, kind of turning that into a very simple click, click, click experience for the patient and get them, get them to be able to take that next step towards accessing their medication.
And that's just it. That's what they're used to. I mean, the thing is bringing technology to a patient, doing it in a way that they're already used to using that tech and that interface, their iPhone, their Droid, whatever it is. DrFirst doesn't even ask you to download the app. It's just right on the text. It's right on SMS. That makes absolute sense. It keeps it simple.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we got pretty granular in looking at different engagement rates and different strategies that are out there today for specialty meds to engage patients. And the one thing you just mentioned is always consistent. Mm-hmm. You can't make it hard for the patient to access just the initial set of information. So it's got to be on their phone. It can't be an app to download. You don't have them create this big account, and then make the engagement very simple so that you can then start to check off the boxes that are downstream. If you don't have the top of that funnel wide enough with it being very, very easy and intuitive and something, frankly, they're already doing at scale, then it doesn't matter how good your other systems are if the top of that funnel is just too small.
I've seen the demo. I've seen the interaction with the physician and the EHR system. I've seen the interaction with the specialty pharmacist, and I've seen the interaction with the patient. In every single space, it keeps it simple. Yep. And that's so important right now with so many things going on. Artificial intelligence sometimes confuses people, whether they're thinking that is it something that I can't trust. This is completely nullifying that because it's meeting patients, it's meeting the physician, and it's meeting the pharmacist where they already are.
That's exactly it. It's like a zero-click experience for all of them. Nothing new to download, nothing new to learn, nothing new to be trained on. It's just fits within the existing clinical infrastructure and just works. So
absolutely. A shout out to our specialty pharmacists out there. Just to get a demo, I want you to reach out to the DrFirst team, drfirst.com, easy enough to remember. Also in the show notes, Colin's information through LinkedIn, Drew's information through LinkedIn will be accessible. Reach out to both of them, connect with both of them, ask them questions. Schedule demos. You will be blown away, especially by Timely and the interaction between patients, physician, EHR, pharmacy, and execution, and keeping people adherent. That's the most important part of all of this for me, Drew, is that we're serving the patient.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's a patient, and it's what makes demoing Timely really easy. It's like you have a phone, okay, you're going to get it. So it's, I'd encourage anyone who's curious, give us a shout and we'll walk you through it.
All right. Here at Access to Pharmacy 2025 Assembia in Vegas with Drew from DrFirst. Thank you so much for being part of this, and thank you for your support of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Thank you, Todd.
Hi there, my name's Fran, Gregory. I'm the Vice President of Emerging Therapies at Cardinal Health. Emerging Therapies at Cardinal Health is the Cell and Gene Therapy and Biosimilars team, and you're listening to Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Fran, welcome back to Access to Pharmacy 2025. Last time we talked, it was 2023, and I said to you, I cannot believe how fast that went.
Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
It does. What we did talk about in 2023, just to the listeners, if you don't know, if you Google Assembia 2023 Pharmacy Podcast Network, you'll find the three-part series where Fran was on. But we were talking about biosimilars, and we were talking about the pharmacist's role in how biosimilars are positioned, how they're educating the providers, how they're educating the patient, the family, the caregivers about what does this mean for my loved one? What does this substance? It sounds, sometimes probably the lay person, it might even sound kind of scary. But talk to us about the relationship of biosimilars, where Cardinal's been over the last 2 years, and then I can't wait to talk to you about gene and cell therapy.
Yeah, sure. Biosimilars have come a long way, even in the last couple years since we talked. And if you think about the biosimilar industry and the biosimilar market, it has officially been 10 years since the first biosimilar has launched. In fact, Cardinal Health published 10 years of biosimilars, or a decade of biosimilars, just a few weeks ago to kind of highlight some of the successes that we've had in that biosimilar space. So the role of the pharmacist has become extremely critical in the biosimilar market, and that is because we've kind of moved out of the medical benefit biosimilars where the providers, the healthcare providers, physicians, nurses, we're really working with those products very closely into the pharmacy benefit. So pharmacists have the opportunity to counsel patients on the value of these and the safety and the efficacy as well of these biosimilar products, and really encouraging patients to give them a shot and to recognize those healthcare savings that biosimilars promise.
So when I think of that, and I hear pharmacists that are specializing in something, in maybe a blood disorder or whatever, when is it time to educate the next generation of pharmacists? How much of this is happening at the pharmacy schools and education around biosimilars, do you think?
That's a great question. In fact, when I graduated from pharmacy school, I'm not going to mention the year, and I hope nobody figures that out, but there was absolutely no mention of really biologics at all. We were really talking about small molecules, and biologics did exist, but there was not a lot of education. And looking to today's pharmacy students, that is a 180, thankfully. Pharmacy schools have absolutely stepped up to the plate as far as educating pharmacists on not only biosimilars, biologics, but cell and gene therapy products as well. And even more broadly, educating pharmacists that they have many, many career opportunities to specialize and help patients in a number of different ways than, what was kind of taught when I was in pharmacy school.
If I were a pharmacist, I would be a little bit more aggressive for my patient than a lot of pharmacists that I run into, because obviously I'm saying this, I haven't been beat down like our pharmacists get beat down in the processes. But when is it time to reach out to the physician, reach out to the family and the patient and say, this is a perfect opportunity for multiple reasons to go and using something that's a biosimilar or gene cell therapy, or something where it's that pharmacist that's advocating for the best case, which includes cost sometimes. So when is it, talk to me about that ecosystem. When is it time for our specialty pharmacists to be a little bit more aggressive out there?
I would say now. I would say any time is a great time for a specialty pharmacist to be more aggressive and more outspoken about how we can benefit patients. I think that there's a huge opportunity, again, in the biosimilar space. Humira, the top-selling drug in the world for years on end, no longer so because of biologic or biosimilar entry into the market. And pharmacists are one of the main reasons why biosimilar adalimumabs have been so successful. So I think, when you think about biosimilars, that's one thing, but cell and gene therapies is the complete flip side. These are innovative products that can save patients' lives, and sometimes physicians don't know about these treatments, but it is the pharmacist's role to know and understand all of the treatment options available for a patient, and to really be outspoken about what can benefit that patient with the condition that they are experiencing.
Where is the expansion happening? Cardinal has an interesting position because you get to see things from a wholesaler's perspective, drug development in the future of where things are going. I'm sure you're in contact with FDA in some capacity. So you really have some eyes on things from a really interesting perspective. So I want to know, where's the growth coming from? Talk to us about the expansion of specialty pharmacy in our health systems.
The growth in specialty pharmacy is coming from all angles. I think I've heard so many quotes here at Assembia this week around how much specialty pharmacy is just taking off. Small molecule products are really kind of in the background at this point, and specialty pharmacy is 100% the focus. So if you think about where specialty pharmacy is going, obviously I focus on cell and gene therapies, which are obviously the most high-cost products in the healthcare system today, ranging from $500,000 up to over $4 million per treatment regimen. So huge opportunity for Cardinal Health to step in and partner with manufacturers, healthcare providers, and payers to make sure that these products can get to patients.
Wow. All right. So when I think of health system, that makes sense. Hospitals are building their own specialty pharmacies for a lot of great reasons, because that's where the patients are and needing it. But let's talk about community pharmacies. I'm using him as an example again because he's one of my favorites. He's also a friend. But Chris Antipas out of Pittsburgh, community pharmacy start, but now he's helping to run a specialty pharmacy, which is really Paragon Health. So talk to me about the realm of the community pharmacy, because Cardinal Health is rich in the support of our community pharmacies.
Absolutely, and the community pharmacy is not lacking in any way, shape, or form the capability to work with some of these very complex specialty products. Unfortunately, in the U.S. healthcare system, community pharmacies are somewhat limited in what they can actually participate in and be involved in because of some of the payer PBM complexities that we face. However, that's not to say that specialty pharmacies are outside of that realm. In fact, we're seeing data coming from a number of sources that are showing that small specialty pharmacies are playing an increasingly more important role in managing some of these extremely complex therapies, limited distribution, exclusive distribution products. And I think this is really a huge opportunity for even small specialty pharmacies just starting out to really make a big difference in, providing better clinical care potentially than some of those larger specialty pharmacies that are really volume focused.
Fran, Gregory, Cardinal Health, focusing on the realm of the advancement and innovation in medications and gene and cell therapy, and it's just exciting. And thank you so much for this update here at Access to Pharmacy 2025.
Thank you so much.
Matthew Lunde and Sabeen Hasni from Walmart Specialty here at Access 25. This is great to have you here. Sabeen, it's good to see you again.
Yes, likewise. Good to see you again too, Todd.
Last time you were on the show, I think it was NASP.
That's right.
20. Is it 20? It was 24. 25
right.
hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
I can't keep track of everything.
Yeah.
All right. So your guest today and our guest, which I haven't met you yet, Matt, talk to me about your role in specialty pharmacy. How'd you get into specialty pharmacy specifically?
Yeah. So I've got a 25-year career in healthcare, and it started as a retail pharmacist in Walmart. And those communities that we serve at Walmart, those patients are relying on those pharmacists, and so I got to experience that firsthand. And when we rolled out the $4 prescription program in 2006, you could see just the incredible value in that it brought to our customers in the fact that they started using their medications the right way.
Yep.
It's a powerful message, and it really got me hooked on access and the importance of having a pharmacist available to that customer, and also Walmart's brand in the community. It's a really strong brand, and so I continued to move through my career in different operations roles, and then got into the payer relations space, which that's PBM negotiations and contracting, as well as health plan discussions, negotiations, contracting, etc. And just I could see that there were some opportunities for us to improve how customers think about Walmart, and especially in the specialty area. It's really a challenge. When you're diagnosed with a debilitating disease, it's a life-changing event for them, and so to help navigate that customer through that life-changing event is such an important part of pharmacy. And as you think about the growth in those areas, the growth in the pipeline that is specialty, it's extremely important to have someone help that customer or patient through that journey.
Yep.
And I can't think of a better company than Walmart to do that. Who trusts us to do their groceries every day, trust us with their, infant formula, trust us with their prescriptions, trust us with their over-the-counter medications. And so when I came back to Walmart, I wanted to be in the specialty area. I wanted to do business development, which is what I do. So working with payer and trade to help tell that Walmart story.
Sabeen, you and I have talked about this before, but it's important, and it's almost the sweet spot, the secret sauce of Walmart specialty, is the fact that you're already in the communities. You're trusted as this outlet of daily supplies, daily living. Now we add in our pharmacist to it. Pharmacist is the most trusted healthcare professional out there. I love that stat. And now we add in specialty, and we think of trust and we think of access. Pharmacy deserts is a big issue right now. Specialty pharmacy and Walmart combined has really mitigated and alleviated and kind of pulled away the issues that deserts are causing. Kind of talk to us about how Walmart is in a very special position.
Yeah, I'd love to. So you're absolutely right. Right now, more than ever, I think pharmacy deserts, healthcare deserts are definitely an issue. We all see it on the news. In the last few years, more pharmacies have had to close down for a number of reasons than ever before. Right? That means that there are more patients out of easy access to healthcare, and Walmart's presence in those areas, right, positions us to take care of those patients. It's an opportunity for us to be able to engage with patients and provide them access to care that they otherwise would not have access to. Thinking about specialty pharmacy and where that fits into the picture, a great example of how Walmart has married those two concepts is through our specialty at retail concept, right? Through our specialty pharmacies of the community, essentially what we've done is for certain diseases where it makes sense, we've taken the concept of providing specialty care outside of just that centralized model out into the field. So when you think of things like HIV or certain autoimmune conditions, our pharmacists are out there in the field, our teams are out there with that extra level of clinical training, empathy, cultural competency to be able to engage those patients, to educate them, and to connect them to resources that are intended to bring them to better health outcomes.
All right, I want to kind of let our listeners know how it works, because not every Walmart that has a pharmacy in it is necessarily going to be a specialty pharmacy in and of itself, but Walmart specialty has a system, has protocols, has like this workflow that you can service any of your Walmart's pharmacies because you're almost like in a central location or something. Talk to our listeners about how that works.
Yeah, so, part of our goal is to create an extension into the community, as Sabeen said. And so our central facility in Orlando is able to support the stores in any fashion. So whether it's, whether it's help with, figuring out the right access to the right drug and where they need to go, or actually shipping the drug to the store to have the patient pick it up there and have our pharmacists help counsel there. This sort of central model with extensions in the community is really important because of what we just talked about from an access perspective and we have 4,000 stores in underserved communities, and so having Walmart as sort of the beacon of everything, including healthcare, is a really important part of how we think about ourselves. As far as specialty pharmacy, that we do have, as Sabeen said, some specialized stores that specialize in specific disease states. Mm-hmm. So things like HIV or autoimmune. And in those stores, customers receive even a higher level of care. Okay. Specialized care, really, the pharmacists have been trained, educated. They're working closely with the physician offices to help that patient find the right level of care and the right access to their medications. And just, in some cases, we're expanding as an example, in Colorado, we're expanding into a test and prep scenario. Where we'll actually do the test for an HIV patient. We'll be able to bill that test or bill for that test, and then provide the prep as long as they are negative. And so, things like that, where the customer, the patient doesn't have to go, to multiple places just gets that access right away. It's going to help that disease state continue to be, continue that battle to end that disease, essentially, right? And so, we feel really good about where in those communities that we serve in those areas, in Colorado specifically, that we have 8 stores doing that, or will be doing that. We're pretty excited about that.
Sabeen, I wanted to know, as a follow-up to what Matthew just said, So you might have specialists in one specific pharmacy that really hone in on, let's say, HIV. However, there might be a blood disorder or cancer or something else that someone else is going through. The specialty pharmacy division at Walmart has the answers. They have the protocols, the workflow, REMS reporting, the whole ecosystem. Yep. However, in the first 5 days, the first 30 days, the first 90 days, how is Walmart communicating with how busy the community pharmacies can become, in that space? How do we slow down some of that time that it's going to be required to spend with those patients that are on those medications? Is Walmart doing that through telehealth? Are you doing that through, invitations to meet at a specific Walmart? Talk to us about the ongoing treatment program and plan management.
Yeah, so there are a couple of aspects to answer that question. One is that if you have a patient who has a prescription for something that is, like an infusion drug or oncolytic that can only be serviced out of the central specialty pharmacy, we have essentially a seamless process where our field, the entire field, not just certain stores, can transfer that prescription electronically to the central specialty pharmacy to reduce some of that turnaround time. And that's when the central specialty pharmacy team acts on that right within that business day to get that prescription turned around as soon as possible for the patient. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that you are going to have, as I think your question implied, is that you're going to have specialty medications that can be filled within the field. Like Humira is a great example of that, where payers allow that. Patients are going to be getting their Humira at the retail pharmacy. In those cases, to your point, right, freeing up that pharmacist bandwidth to be able to speak to patients and to be able to counsel them. Walmart has made an extensive investment over the past several years to allow our pharmacy teams to form those relationships in a meaningful way. Things like, our central fills, right? Allowing technicians to practice at the top of their license. All those types of things, right? Pharmacy delivery, all these things have come together to give our pharmacists the bandwidth to do what they love most and what they are experts at, which is providing excellent pharmaceutical care. So that is how then they, for those patients who are getting serviced out of the pharmacy, can do that extra level of counseling and all those other things, whether or not they're a SPOC.
That's great. Matthew, why is it important to be a part of the Assembia annual get-together? Why does Walmart especially invest to be part of Access to Pharmacy 2025?
Yeah, it's a great question, Todd. So we feel like this is an event that allows us to, have these really meaningful discussions, whether they're with manufacturers or vendors that service specialty pharmacies. And a lot of these conversations manifest into some incredible opportunities to serve our customers better. And so when you get together and you're talking about ways to improve outcomes, improve the care that our patients receive, we identify new products, new paths, new things to do in the community that we serve. And so these conversations are priceless, really. It's an incredible opportunity to get together with just a great, like-minded group of healthcare professionals.
Sabeen and Matthew, it's been just a pleasure to talk with you. Getting updates now from Walmart Specialties, becoming a tradition. So now you're going to have to make sure that we meet back up at Assembia 2026, but I'll probably be seeing you at NASP 2025 right. too.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Todd.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the ASX 25 Access to Pharmacy post show. We're back with some pharmacy trivia. What tree's bark is used to create aspirin? Okay, are you ready to see if you got it? If you said willow bark, you got it. Willow trees always make me think of Harry Potter. I wonder if wizards and witches got that one figured out too.
Pharmaceutical Strategies Group here with Morgan Lee, AXS 25, Access to Pharmacy in Vegas. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
All right, you know what irritates me? We have some amazing groups of people people like Pharmaceutical Strategy Group, who's doing amazing research. You're developing white papers, you're developing studies, and sometimes, in this case, our specialty pharmacists and people who are running specialty pharmacies don't get a chance to really dig into that research. Something has just come out that we want to get a lot more attention to for our listeners. Morgan, tell us about this new research project that you're working on.
Happy to. Well, and we're really excited to be here at Asembia to kick off our report season. Our report season includes 4 annual market research reports. Trends in Specialty Drug Benefits is our first report of the report season. And in this report, we surveyed a little over 230 payers on a wide variety of specialty drug benefit design and management topics. I'll tell you, we've been conducting this research for over a decade, and it's really interesting to track trends over time. So, for example, this year we found year over year a nearly 10% increase in the percentage of payers who selected managing specialty trend or managing total cost of care as their very top goal for specialty drug management. As another example, we found an increase in the percentage of payers who are carving out some utilization management services from their PBM to other vendors. And then I'll also just say that this report also gives us the opportunity to add new questions on topics of interest. So, for example, this year we added questions on rebates for drugs that are covered under the medical benefit and additional questions on cancer screening and treatment. And then finally, I'll just say that this report, like all of our market research reports, is available for free. And I really encourage listeners to explore the report for insights on a wide variety of topics, everything from cell and gene therapies to tracking capabilities and challenges in this space. So I've noted a few things, and we have Renee, who is, I believe, one of your top 50 most influential in pharmacy, is another person from PSG who I work with closely, and I'd love to hear a little bit of what she has to say as well.
Absolutely. Renee is one of the most influential people in our profession, voted on by her peers for the 2024 season. And with that, I'd like to welcome Renee. And once again, congratulate you for your positioning and your influence in our profession. And it's nice to see you, and it's nice to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Todd. So with this report, I always find it interesting for what the payers are talking about. And when I say payers, it includes both health plans and employers, and what they indicate as their top goals. So in addition to what Morgan mentioned, what came closely in was what they ranked kind of third behind affordability, because that's still a priority, but reducing inappropriate utilization came in third. So over half the respondents actually listed as second or third as a priority. And utilization matters. So even yesterday in one of the talks, they were talking about the drug sales for 2024, and they said 78% of the drug sales where volume was the responsible party for it. And so when you don't think about managing utilization, I think you're not going to be optimal at managing your drug spend. So we always talk about, it doesn't matter how expensive a drug is if no one's using it, right? So you can't just consider cost. You have to consider how many people are using it. And so we always say you must manage both cost and utilization. Another interesting topic in the survey, so I really encourage people to go out and read the report, is looking at, are there alternatives to, are people seeking alternatives to the rebate-driven approach or alternatives to, the traditional PBM model? So there's questions around that, and we're seeing more interest in payers in, trying to align their PBM solutions to better fit their needs. So customize it more to, what their challenges are. I think the days of the one-size-fits-all model are kind of, gone away. Yep. And then lastly, I would say we have some questions that are looking at, what's really challenging payers from a trend perspective in specialty. So a lot about, or a little bit about biosimilars and cell and gene therapies. We've had changes in the industry related to both of those. Kind of not what the industry expected. So it's kind of neat to see, how the payers are looking at that and what their responses are to our questions. So thank you for, the time to kind of tout our report. So we are very excited about it and hope that some of your listeners will find the information useful.
Absolutely. In this episode, in the show notes, you will have a link in order to get access to this report. But for our listeners' sake, where should they go to run into this information?
To the PSG website, you could go out. So it's Pharmaceutical Strategies Group, and go out to our website, and you'll be able to download the report from there. There will be 4 this year. This is the first one, so we're excited. Our report season is off to a raging start.
Excellent.
So.
Renee, thank you so much. We will be following up with you to get more information to our Pharmacy Podcast Network listeners about these reports. And reach out to Renee. She's on LinkedIn, too.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Well, I'm excited to be a guest host here for Todd at the Pharmacy Podcast, #1 podcast in the industry. And this is Richard Brooks speaking today. I've known Todd for several years through NASP, and Todd knows that I've oftentimes talked about generating data for pharmaceutical use. I have a special guest here today, Keith Kallmes from Nested Knowledge, who's going to talk about ways that we find data. Keith, could you tell us a little bit about your Nested Knowledge platform?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Rich. Really excited to be on the podcast. Nested Knowledge is an evidence synthesis platform, and what I mean by that is we can take published evidence, unpublished evidence, any sort of literature, clinicaltrials.gov records, conference abstracts, internal data, and amalgamate them into a comprehensible analytical framework, which you can then glean insights out of. So if you want to know comparative clinical effectiveness for drugs, devices, if you want to know epidemiological burden of illness, if you want to know what the humanistic burden is, that information exists out there. The challenge is, how do you find it? How do you synthesize it? How do you summarize it? And how do you analyze it?
So organizations like Assembia, where we're at today, and NASP and AMCP do great jobs in bringing information that's in the research realm to life. And I think Nested Knowledge, I've seen the benefit of identifying that research, where it comes from, how it can be synthesized. How do you take the data and extract the pearls?
It's a great question. Human in the loop AI. So you have a process-oriented sort of scientific best practice where you go to a database, be it PubMed or clinicaltrials.gov or really wherever this evidence exists. You identify relevant records. You build a taxonomy of concepts that will then go in and abstract the granular data elements or study elements that allow you to find the exact answer you're looking for. So if you are curious about a patient subpopulation and the types of drugs that perform best in that subpopulation, you're going to generate a Boolean string that's going to include those subpopulations in the therapies. And then you're going to have an AI go out and abstract the data points or the text segments that help you answer that question. Maybe there's a pre-existing review. Maybe it's going to be a bunch of combined RCTs. And then ultimately, what the gold standard here is a meta-analysis. And traditionally, that'll take you 9 months. And a biostatistician, we actually have a no-code meta-analysis function where you can get comparative clinical efficacy data from different RCTs in a very short order.
And for those of you who haven't seen the platform, we're going to work with Todd to see if we can put a link in there so that people can actually view it. I know that the Nested Knowledge platform does a great job at generating text-based or pictures of the text of how it all forms in the ecosystem, the taxonomy. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Absolutely, that's a great question. We're all about provenance. So I'm sure everyone listening to this has used ChatGPT or another LLM. I'm a huge fan of those tools. They absolutely have their place. But if someone is going to make clinical decisions, if someone is going to make reimbursement decisions, if someone is going to make a decision that can impact patient care, provenance has to be a part of that conversation. Where did that evidence come from? Who found that evidence? What are the biases associated with that evidence? Was it funded by industry? Was it funded by NIH? When was it published? What were the comorbidities of those underlying patients? So humans in the loop, AI abstraction with direct text linkage to the underlying studies for where that came from. And most importantly, it's dynamic. So every single piece of evidence that you interact with on a daily basis, whether it's a systematic review published in a journal or a guideline, that is just a snapshot. The ultimate vision is make it dynamic, have new evidence ingested automatically as it comes out.
And if I recall the platform from when I've worked with it, it's not just taking the abstract and summarizing the abstract, it's actually delving into the manuscripts, pulling out, or the clinical trial document and saying, we show this is the temperature change that the patient saw. Might not have been the pearl that was brought out in the abstract, but it's some of that knowledge, that nested knowledge helps extract.
That's exactly right. You can skim over the surface with abstracts, like you said, or you can go all the way down to that one granular table in the manuscript that has that little pearl that you're looking for. And most importantly, you take all those pearls that came from all those individual tables and you can combine them and do a no-code meta-analysis, which, again, that's the gold standard. That's what people are usually driving at, but oftentimes it falls short because of resourcing and technology. So our vision is really to change that.
Well, and I think about the Pharmacy Podcast as being a technology for getting information out there to the people, to the listeners. This is a way of taking piece out. Does the platform do anything with audio files or?
No audio yet, actually. A lot of visualizations. So forest plots, Sucre rankings, funnel plots for heterogeneity, I-squared, ITCs, dashboards, maps. No audio. That would be cool, though, if you could have an audio repository and an AI go in and tag those.
I think one of the first times I saw the platform in action, we were sitting and Keith was doing a demo, and it might have been one of his partners at the time, but people were looking at the plots that were coming out of that and saying, wow, this looks like a poster that I would see presented here. It's really almost publication grade graphics.
It is publication grade. We have journals, Radiology, which is a super high impact journal with a lot of readership, really high quality evidence. They've published living systematic reviews and meta-analyses with embedded interactive visuals. It is publication grade. If you want to do an abstract, there's actually a QR code you can link to a digital twin of that abstract that helps the reader interpret what is going on there, what's the underlying evidence, what was the methodology. So absolutely, I think there's a place for physical journals, there's a place for physical abstracts, but if you're going to do that, have a digital twin, have the link and the linkage all the way through to the underlying data.
So one of the things I think about the nested knowledge platform is also that it's not limited to the US. You can actually synthesize data from around the world, hone in on the different countries of interest. Are other countries and organizations adopting the platform for their technology?
Believe it or not, we have more users in Europe than we do in the United States. Europe is on the cutting edge of comparative clinical efficacy and HTA research. We have a lot of users in India. And I mean, like you said, evidence is global, right? Different subpopulations get sick at different rates and present differently depending on what part of the world they're in, but ultimately we're all people and we all get sick in a very similar way. So if you can generate evidence and synthesize evidence in a global context, you're going to have a higher powered study, you're going to have a better study ultimately than if you were geographically limited. Now, it's a very important distinction to make. Sometimes if you're doing a geography-specific submission or analysis, you want to be able to narrow in on the evidence from that specific geography, but I think it's better to have a database tagged according to the location of where this evidence is coming from around the globe than it is to just have North American data.
So I believe I have this right, but I want to make sure I get it right for the listeners. If I'm looking at, say, an antibacterial product and I'm looking at the major pathogens in play in the US, they might be very different than other parts of the world. And the nested knowledge platform can extract which pathogens are showing up in which studies in which parts of the world and drugs being developed as well?
Absolutely. We'll pick up the population that's getting sick, the interventions that are treating them, the outcomes of interest from that underlying data set, and then we'll automatically tag where these studies are coming out from a geographic location. So you're exactly right. That is automated, but you can also, as a human, go in and quality control that and really understand where that evidence is bubbling up from.
So I'm seeing a lot of presentations around Asembia this year on cell and gene therapies. Would the nested knowledge be able to help me find those types of publications?
Absolutely. I think for something as cutting edge as cell and gene therapy, I would go not to the published literature, I would go to clinicaltrials.gov, and clinicaltrials.gov is a goldmine of high-quality information, but the interface, with all due respect, the great people at clinicaltrials.gov could use a lot of work. So instead of trying to improve their interface, what we did is we actually built an API plugin with clinicaltrials.gov, and we'll actually automatically abstract all the relevant information from clinicaltrials.gov and put it in a structured format for our users to review. So if you want to know what's coming out in cell and gene therapy, I would encourage you to use our API with ct.gov and then build a visual mapping of all the upcoming therapies and their applications.
And you said there's humans in the loop. So, if I'm going to do my application and I get stuck, am I getting a robocall about it, or are you helping me avoid that robocall?
We will walk you through every step of the tool. We have humans on call to help our researchers. We also do have AIs to help as well. Best of both worlds. We have human pre-recorded videos, human support calls, and then AIs to answer basic questions about research structure or functionality as well.
Well, you guys are really taking the research world and literature search world by storm here, and I've seen the growth over the past few years. How long has Nested Knowledge been in existence, and what can you say about that?
So, Carl, my technical co-founder and CTO, he started writing the code for this program over 6 years ago. Now, there was a lot of building that had to happen first. You can't just come out with a product a month later that people are going to use. So I would say we've been commercial for about 4 years, and I would say past 2 years we've really seen a lot of adoption by researchers of all stripes. And for the pharmacy world out there, I would say you've probably interfaced with some of the evidence that was generated in the Nested Knowledge platform without even realizing it. For instance, if you read an ICER assessment and you go to their methods, they will note that they're using Nested Knowledge for article selection. We're often in the background, but I'm super happy with that. If we can make evidence dissemination easier, better, faster, and more digestible, then I'm all about that. I don't need credit.
Well, I'm just tickled pink that Todd allowed us to come and guest host for his show tonight. One of the questions I'm curious about is I've seen an increased presence of Nested Knowledge on the podium at different meetings, at AMCP, and I hear you have some upcoming places where people can see the demo live at a meeting as well as on the website.
Yeah, we actually have 2 presentations at ISPOR. Renee, who is our scientific director, is actually co-presenting with Chief Scientific Officer of ISPOR, Dr. Mitch Higashi. Kevin, my brother and co-founder, is also presenting on basically the effectiveness of AI for generating Boolean queries when going to PubMed. So if you're at ISPOR, I would encourage you to go and watch one or both of those. Yeah, I would actually like to shout out and thank Harry Travis for getting me that podium at AMCP. I had no idea that there was this whole other side to comparative clinical efficacy research outside of pharma, right? There's this whole world of like P&T and formulary who are really doing the complement of the work that the manufacturers and the consultants do, right? It's all about what drugs work best for which patients. And I think we're all just in the business of trying to make sure that the right drugs get to the right patients at the right time in the right combination. And technology can really help us do that.
So we're providing evidence, finding evidence to help developers, manufacturers, marketers look better with what's out there and giving them a solid foundation to build upon.
Exactly, yeah. Couldn't put it better myself.
Sounds great. I look forward to learning more and more as I work with the platform and listen to the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Todd.
My friend Matt Gilbert here with me. It seems like every time we meet, we have microphones in front of us and we're on a podcast.
I think we should get some good travel discounts with all the traveling we do. should start riding together. It's time for a private plane. I'll pick you up in Pittsburgh.
That's awesome. So we are at Asembia, all things specialty. I say this is the Super Bowl event of a specialty pharmacy business, and your team's here. The booth looks great, but let's talk about that. Well, why specialty? What is special about specialty when it comes from RxSafe's positioning in ITW?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is it all revolves around adherence and keeping patients healthy, and that trickles back to manufacturers. That benefits the patient, the pharmacy. We really want to have patients stick adherent, and through our adherence packaging, both on the blister card fulfillment and the pouch packaging side, that's our main mission, is keeping a patient adherent, and that flows really well with Asembia's mission.
So something that's special that happened with RxSafe is the acquisition through ITW, and now the footprint, the reach, the power internal icon. So talk to us about that. Like, talk to me about stability in the market, how ITW has impacted. You've seen it from both sides. You saw it before. Now you're a part of this team. So let's go through that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's been good. I get that question a lot. I had it a couple minutes ago at the booth. How's everything going since the acquisition? And we're over a year into it now, and it's been pretty cool. We took kind of the best pieces of RxSafe and built on the innovation and the technology and the kind of customer-backed innovation that RxSafe had, And those principles have kind of translated over to ITW. So ITW really focuses on that CBI, customer-backed innovation, and now we're part of a family of a Fortune 200 company. So you've got a lot more engineering resources. You've got no worry about selling out to a private equity firm or a VC, which was great for me personally and the company. And it's really just been great to be paired with Icon, because we were a reseller of Icon. We used it with our existing technology for all those years, 15, 16 years. And it's kind of like getting in with a company you already knew versus somebody that was just out to squeeze every last nickel out of you and bleed you dry. So
Exactly. But guess what? That's happening in our space, and that's for another podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, the M&A podcast featuring
the
Todd
M&A
Urey.
podcast. All right. So with Asembia being a specialty drug show, how has RxSafe and Icon served this space specifically?
Yeah, so on the Icon side of the business, a ton of specialty pharmacies have Icons, particularly the newer model, the 9430 that we have. What that does is it takes images of the tray, but a lot of the specialty pharmacies are using it for unit of use items and imaging that, and then that relays out to a PV2 function for a pharmacy owner, and then it gives a good chain of custody for serialization as well as auditing purposes. On the RxSafe side of the business, specialty is huge for us in the pouch packaging predominantly, and it's keeping those patients adherent, using really good, thorough technology that we're checking multiple times. Is this the right drug that we're dispensing? And then finally inspecting it before it goes out of the machine, providing a real crisp, clear path to an adherent patient medication.
So what I really appreciate in my observance of RxSafe, and when I heard about ITW and Icon, I have to say I was nervous, because I don't want companies that I've worked with for years to get watered down or changed in the way that they think or your mission. And I'm not seeing any of that. I'm seeing an enhancement to RxSafe in strength and power. But before you became this bigger organization and more have this more depth to you, you were also extremely innovative, and that part of it hasn't gone away either. So I want to know what you're working on, something new that's coming up. What's next for RxSafe and Icon?
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. In the central fill model, we've got a bunch of central fill site, mail order sites, some new robotics that we're working on, for particularly in the specialty mail order central fill space, as well as software platforms that go along with that to drive everything that would be fulfilled in one of those locations. Working on a new revision of our legacy 1800 robot, so we can get a more robust new gen product out to those thousands of customers that have those out in the field. Not to say we're going to sunset the old stuff, but we want to have a new offering that is a lot more scalable than what we have now. On the Icon side of the book, we've got OPV, which is optical pill verification. So taking a true look at every individual tablet while it's on there, analyzing it, making sure it's accurate based on all the different characteristics of the individual pill versus just counting it like everybody else does. Last one that we just released was the Rapid Card single dose at the MHA show. Had fantastic reception. Going to be installing those pretty soon here in short order in the next couple of months. And it's just been gangbusters because there's not a lot of options out there in the single dose market. It's a couple of vendors. And we've, again, listened to that customer-backed innovation and give them a product that they want and they need.
So I want to take a pause for our listeners just to understand something. Matt and the team have really refined what it means to become a long-term care at home pharmacy entity with all of the pieces that go into the ingredients of really doing it the right way. So when I think of specialty pharmacies that are working to expand your markets, but then you realize, hey, we have our own local market. There's people that are living in their homes. They can't get out of their homes. We need to service them. I want you to reach out to the RxSafe team, the Icon team, Matt specifically, because you've really helped to blueprint how that fits and how that works, and ask questions. How does our specialty pharmacy cater to the long-term care at home environment? Matt, kind of tell us a little bit about that whole concept and how you guys have like I said, you guys have built a really powerful blueprint.
Yeah, well, I think the key is learning what the market needs and then customizing to those needs with some good solutions that we have, not only from us but other partners in the industry.
Yep.
So whether it's a GeriMed or it's MedSense or it's Paul Shelton, the LTC at Home Network, or CPSN, we're plugged into all these different channels that we can position you and put you in the right direction. And we've done it, hundreds of times. So it's really tried and true. My business transformation team focuses on making sure the customer is successful post-implementation. So whether that's a marketing need or whether that's, hey, how do I do this? I've never serviced a group home before. I've never serviced a medical at home patient before. How does that work? We really would just want to offer you any type of solution that'll make sure we get you in the right spot that you need to be in.
Matt Gilbert, RxSafe and Icon, powerful partners of the space of specialty pharmacy in general. And I want to say thank you so much for the support that you've given to the Pharmacy Podcast Network over the years.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great to be here, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
At some other conference that we'll run into each other.
Probably be next week.